Did I say that all right? I know I didn't have the Spanish accent in there. So,
When you start saying things all right, we know something's all wrong.
This is going to be the best interview of the week, I guarantee you. I don't even have to say a thing, just let those two go at it.
okay, it's been a few years since I've had either of you up here to represent LaCosta, Colombia. So, just give us a little background in case there's people here that might not know. Jerry, how did you get this? I'm looking at you starting this, and if that's the case, how did it start many years ago?
Well, as they would sing in Colombia, por el amor de una mujer. Right? For the
That's
love
what I
of a
thought.
woman, yeah. I got roped in. I never ever even intended to visit the country of Colombia, but I met my wife online. She wasn't my wife at the time. But I had to go. In order to get a fiancé visa, you have to go visit the country and then come back. And so I went just to meet her. And of course, you know how that worked out, much to my benefit, I can tell you. When I went there, one of the things that had attracted me to her was that she was a missionary in her own country. And she had been supported by American churches, North American churches. And so she took me to the mission. At the time that I met her, she had retired, and her brother had taken over the mission, and she took me down into that slum where they had started that mission, and the Lord just started speaking to me the whole time. I never thought that I was going to start a mission, but I thought that my church would have to be involved in this, and that's how it started. We started going down, and as a congregation, I would take groups down there. And we started the scholarship program when some of the kids that we knew, their father was murdered, and we just felt compelled to do something. So that's how the scholarship program got started. But it was all being done out of New Paradigm. But there came a point at which I could see that the need was outgrowing the New Paradigm missions team. So that's when I started the 501c3 to be able to draw funds from other churches and individuals, and also to form a board of directors to expand the mission. So that's kind of how it all got started. Just
Okay. How has this evolved over the years? I mean, you start with just going down there and helping the people, or?
Yeah, it started with good old-fashioned, we're going to go down and do some kind of physical work, which was silly because, you know, you take a bunch of people in their latter middle-aged years, early elderly years to do physical work. It's kind of dumb. But
Talking about people like you and me?
yeah, well. But, you know, we would go down there just to do some kind of work to help remodel a house or put on a roof or something like that. And but I began to see the need among the ministers. There were a lot of ministers there that were, you know, independent. The way I like to describe my experience in Latin America, and I don't know if any other folks are here that might contradict me, but I just felt like the gospel had gotten to Latin America and has spread rapidly, and evangelical Christianity was spreading rapidly, but it was going a mile wide and about a quarter-inch deep. And I just felt like there's a need here for training and for mentoring and developing of young leaders. So I started to have retreats for ministers. And that was really the first real ministry effort that started down there. But again, that was still under the umbrella of my congregation, New Paradigm. And then, of course, we had the scholarship get started. So,
Okay. And eventually you get into medical part, which, Tom, that's where you come in. What are your experiences down there in?
Yeah, most of my experiences and the trips I've taken down there have been medical, and that probably goes back to, again, one of our central ministries there is the church Casa Firme there in Barranquilla. Barranquilla is a large port city in Colombia, so a lot of things come through there, including drugs. And this poor neighborhood where the Casa Firme is where is kind of the central part of the ministry of LaCosta. It seems like our connections that we have along the whole coast kind of focus on Casa Firme's minister, Roger, who goes out and he has a network of people and churches that we see their needs and we get connected with them. And so we are now working with a church in Buenaventura, which is on the Pacific side of Colombia. We work with churches around the Santa Marta area, which is a couple hours from Barranquilla. And then just prior to COVID, Jerry kept telling me he wants to do a medical trip to this church in Casa Firme, and I didn't know. I've been on many medical missions, but I had never done one, never organized one. So then we turned to Bill Warren and Fame, and Bill says, we can help you in any way and at any level. We can support you. We can organize it if you want. And we kind of looked at each other and said, that's what we want. So we partnered with Fame, and Fame has had a series of trips before COVID and then after COVID. In fact, we were down there when COVID hit. We weren't sure. Sandy, my wife, is a nurse. I'm a doctor. And we're on this trip with Fame in March of 2020. And we go down there. We always go down with our bags full of medicines. And then we kind of plan on putting our bags full of coffee to bring back. And our daughter contacted us and said, you may want to put some toilet paper in there too, because I don't know if you remember COVID, but toilet paper became a shortage. So we brought some toilet paper back with us too. But anyway, so we've done a number of trips, medical trips down there and partnering with Fame there. But that has actually extended to now at the church there, we have a community medical center that Fame has helped to build. I'm starting to, you're rubbing off on me, your English. But we have partnered with them. Through Casa Firme, we also have a feeding ministry in the neighborhood of Casa Firme, and that we partner with individuals who donate to that, but also IDES has been very generous in our partnership there. So we partner with ministries in Colombia, and we partner with ministries here in the United States as we try to support those ministries in Colombia. We have a sports ministry also that came out of this, and they're all led by Colombians, and so we don't want to take over. We want them to be led by Colombians. It's very fluid. Jerry will update me, but a month will go by and I'm not updated anymore because it's very fluid what's going on there and the different opportunities that we have, and some opportunities dry up and others present themselves. And so I sometimes wonder, I'm always nervous when I come up here to explain what's going on there, because I figure Jerry's probably going to be over there rolling his eyes because what I'm going to be telling you is out of date. And it's kind of like when...
That's not why I'm rolling my eyes, Tom.
Okay.
That was just too easy. I couldn't resist it.
Well, let me go back to Jerry, and then you can roll your eyes. But Jerry, as far as the leadership thing go, are they able to train leaders now, or you guys still need to be a part of that?
I really appreciate that question. Tom was using the same language I use, but it's something that I'm thinking we might want to change language, because we don't actually have anything down there. It's all Colombian owned and all Colombian led. So, for instance, Fame and a grant organization gave some money to LaCosta, and the church at Casa Firme came together to buy the property for the the community center, but it's in their name. Fame and LaCosta don't own a thing. And we share that philosophy that we're not there to plant our flag. we're there for theirs. So first of all, we have encouraged Colombian leadership and Colombian ownership. As a result of that, though, we do require accountability. So if we're going to contribute to your organization, you need to let us see your books. And some folks won't let us do that, and so we can't work with them. There are other situations where ministers will have put the church property in their name, and they're using church offerings to pay their mortgage. We can't work with you. You have to you have to form a foundation and donate the property to the foundation in order to have our partnership. So there are some things that happen where we've laid a foundation for a high level of integrity. Then you're asking about ability, and that has grown exponentially. And I will tell you, just to give you a very direct answer to your question, I have a Zoom meeting twice a month with leaders of the churches for leadership development, and I don't lead it. I attend it. I facilitate it on my computer, but Roger Torres teaches that now. And we have another guy that we are working with that is going to start doing some teaching. So now even the teaching and the training of the ministers, I work with 2 or 3 guys, and they work out. But Roger's, frankly, he's outpaced me. I really don't know that I have, other than brotherhood and encouragement, I don't have much to offer him. He's just...
So there's still the contact and not necessarily oversight as much as, like even here in the United States, if we need help at our congregation, we can go to someone else that might know something that could help us. Is that how it would work?
Roger, you know, Tom touched on this. Roger has become a mentor for a lot of ministers down there. He has really grown exponentially, and so, but he has also become part of a fellowship, and LaCosta is part of this fellowship of churches, church leaders, and they are not associated with LaCosta, but except through brotherhood. They're not financially associated with us. But these are mature Christian men. One is two are Colombian, and one is an American missionary, and they have been helping as well. And so we don't, you know, we call what we have down there a network, because there's no legal association with us. It's just a network of churches with whom we work. And like I say, those 4 guys are doing a lot of the leadership, but now there's an elder at Casa Firme that has been growing and is now going into preaching ministry. There are a couple of medical doctors in one of our churches, because we just had a new congregation get started in one of the more affluent areas. This is the first time we've ever worked in one of the affluent areas of town. But there's an ophthalmologist and a family practitioner that are starting to do some of the preaching in that church, in that congregation, and Roger has been training them. So there's multiplication starting to happen.
So, Tom, how many times have you been down to Colombia on trips? Multiple?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's probably, I've lost count. I've been on 4 or 5 medical trips, and I've been on a couple of non-medical trips.
And in that time, what changes have you seen in the people that you deal with, or has it been different places every time?
Well, there's been some different places, and I always appreciate that when we find other churches that we are partnering with and that we're able to go in and do a medical clinic. But even at Casa Firme, they have changed locations. They have expanded with the community health ministry, with the feeding ministry, and so I go down there. Sometimes I'm not sure where we're going to be going, even though it's the same group of people, because the ministry has expanded in some way. We've also noticed the infrastructure there in this neighborhood of Casa Firme, where Casa Firme is, Las Flores. When we first went there, the roads in and out, very much what you would expect in a slum neighborhood. The government has been slowly paving streets and just making it more passable. There's still a lot of work to be done there, but we do see some of those changes. But every year that we go down with a medical trip, I'm not sure. I know we're going to be at Casa Fermi. I just don't know where else we're going to go. There's always some other church that Roger has found a minister who needs some help or is eager to have a clinic, and it really does help to bring people in their neighborhood into the church. I'm not sure if that answers your question the way you want.
Well, it's good enough for now.
Okay.
And Jerry, I know you've been going there longer. What about changes you've seen from when you first went down to now when you go down there?
I wish that I could say that because of the ministries that we have helped support, there has been huge transition in the neighborhood we're working in. I can only partially say that because the government has had a lot to do with it. But the neighborhood we work in was a slum, when we went in there. And I was just getting pictures last week because we had to shut down the feeding ministry for the month of June because the city was coming in and putting in sewers for the street. And after the sewers are in, then they're going to pave the street. It's going to be weird, isn't it? Going up to the church on a paved street. But little bit by little bit. But the reason I say that it's partially happening is because our ministry has caught the attention of some city leaders. So, for instance, we support a certain amount of the feeding ministry. The church, every ministry, by the way, every ministry we work with, part of the reason we want to see their books is because we don't do anything until they have skin in the game. They have to do their part first. Then we'll come in and augment what they're doing. And so the church came up with the feeding ministry. They supply the volunteers. They supply the first monies. But then we come in and we support a number of days of feeding through the week. This caught the attention of the mayor's office. And so they have come in and they're now providing the money for 1 day a week of feeding. But because of that, they have seen the community health center. They've seen the work with the pregnant mothers and all of the work that's done quietly, because you can imagine there's a lot of abuse in a neighborhood like that, and so that work is really done under the radar. But the city sees it because of referrals to social services and so on and so forth. And that neighborhood has just gotten a lot more attention. Part of it is also because we had that scholarship program, and our first 6 scholarship graduates formed a sports ministry. And that sports ministry now reaches up to 450 children in 2 different neighborhoods. One is the neighborhood we're in, and then there's a neighborhood across town that's even more violent. Rob, its nickname is La Cuna de Sicarios. Yeah, the cradle of assassins is the name of this neighborhood. And they're in there doing this sports ministry. And again, that caught the attention of the city because some of these kids actually went into pro soccer as a result of this. They would have never been discovered, but it's, like there are a lot of pro-level players playing on basketball players playing on playgrounds in New York City right now that aren't getting discovered. So that was what was happening. And so we feel like that a lot of the physical changes that have happened, but the biggest change that I see realistically is in the church leadership and in the depth of maturity among the people. That it was, and I don't mean to, boy, I tell you, I don't mean to sound the way I'm going to sound, but it was nothing but Alleluia and Gloria a Dios, Alleluia, Alleluia, Gloria a Dios. It was all just emotional at one time. But now, when you go into the worship service, you feel a depth in the prayers, and there is definitely a depth in the preaching that wasn't there 10 years ago. And it's going to get better as we now are going to develop a scholarship program for the certificate program at KCU.
I wanted to follow up because you asked about how many trips I've taken and to relate to the dangers there. It becomes familiar when you go multiple trips. And the first year we went, it was very clear the dangerous areas we were going in. I mean, we had soldiers there guarding us during our clinic. Roger has developed such rapport, and people look up to him in that neighborhood. But the soldiers have they don't show up at our clinics, but the police will always come by. But I have become very familiar, and I keep forgetting I'm still in a very dangerous place, even though I may not see the dangers there. And I have to remind myself of that, and I'm reminded when Jerry reminds me that we now have the sports ministry going into the cradle of assassins. That's just on the other side of town. And so there were people assassinated in this neighborhood here not that many years ago, and still it could happen today. I have to remind myself of that. But sometimes
one of our scholarship kids was killed by a stray bullet in an assassination attempt.
But I have to remind myself, God goes before us, so I may not be seeing the dangers because he's already removed it so that I can do the work. And that's something I have to be reminded of. Every once in a while, he does remind me that there are dangers there, because we did have one clinic where we were about ready to get robbed by bandits. We didn't realize it at the time because a torrential rain came in and shut the clinic down, and it was at that point that we recognized there were some people getting ready to rob us. So, and it's a reminder that God is watching out for us, even though we may not see it.
Being familiar walking through the neighborhood is a blessing to Tom. I was walking through the neighborhood a couple of years ago, and a woman shouted out from her house, "Pastor, tú eres más gordo que nunca." She shouted out, "Pastor, you're fatter than ever." There are no boundaries in the Latino community.
I guess it's good I don't speak the language. I'm not sure what it was they said.
You would have just said, "See." Okay. Any questions from out in the audience? Jerry?
We started officially legally, I think, 7 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Well, that's a good. So I'm on the board, so we went to look at and to meet some of the ministry partners that we have, and so I went as a representative of the board of LaCosta. But even on those trips, somehow people still will come to me. We went to the one neighborhood, and I don't remember the name of it, but we're looking at the community centers that are available, the health facilities that are available in that neighborhood, and in doing so, they started bringing people up, realizing I was a doctor. Oh, here's a rash, and so wherever you go, you're right, Doug. Wherever you go, when they find out you're a doctor, they're going to come to you. Yeah.
Anything else? Yes. But
Well, somebody might say that the Sizemores and the Brunsmans and the Bushnells grew up together at Lake James. I would suggest that we all got older together. We're still in the process of growing up. Yeah.
yeah, well, I hope when you were talking about the cribs, Barb and Tom weren't in the same crib, were they? Okay, there. Okay. Any other?
And I have to say, not too many people get away with calling me Tommy.
That's Nancy and Grandma Brunsman, right? Any other questions? Okay.
Can I
yeah.
just say, we do have a few of the mochilas back there for a $40 or more donation. Thank you for those that have felt like they wanted to give more. I do let you know that those represent the ministry of a doctor. Tony Sargote is an emergency physician in Barranquilla who has developed this ministry to the YU indigenous people in the state of Guajira. And he has a group of 4 other medical professionals that travel with him 4 times a year into Guajira, and they volunteer their time. They get the donations of medicines, and they go in and do medical trips in La Guajira. But I sat down with him in my last trip. I sat down with all the ministry leaders and said, what is your most pressing need? And Tony said, if you guys could cover the cost of gas and food and hotels for us going in, it would mean a lot to us. And it just hit me. They're taking their personal time to go do this mission trip, raising all the money and all the medicine donations, and then paying for it out of pocket. So buy a bag to help for those trips, if the Lord leads you to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being up here today, and we will take a few-minute break and then begin our morning, the last session of the morning.